So, yeah, I'm Patrick Hickey. So, I guess I'll start by saying I've spent 26 years building a business called Rothco. And this morning I'm going to talk to you very briefly, and I'm going to keep it brief because we've lots to get through, about a culture that we built over that time. And I'll start by saying in August, I finished at the top of the mountain because we sold our business to Accenture 3.5 years ago. And my time had finished. It wasn't an earn-out. It was I would say a friend's deal because they're very good people and I'm still very close to a lot of them. Finished that in August, kind of looking down because I was at the top of the mountain. And then I had what I can best describe as a crisis of identity. And I genuinely mean this, by the way. For about a month, might not seem like a long time, but it was to me because I'd never had it before. I had a crisis of identity. I really genuinely didn't know who I was or what I was about. And it affected me deeply. Like I was saying to people outside, I think Pete said it, we've all had our own COVID journey and possibly have all had our own COVID moments. But this was mine. And the reason it was there was because I didn't realize how attached I was to the business. And in spite of all the books and all the conferences and all the trees I've hugged, I found that I was very ego-based and very attached to the business. So the lesson that I learned when my wife was sitting beside me, obviously through the whole journey of that business, and kept on saying to me, would you not just go and work in Mobility Mojo? And she kept on repeating this. I'm like, yeah, grand, I know what I'm doing. I'm all over this, I know what I'm doing. And it wasn't until I took the decision that I was going to go and follow an investment that I made 2 years earlier and actually on a daily basis go and work in this business. And now I'm one of you again. Because I'm back in the room, I have a job, and we're at the very start. And it was a really wise decision that I made 2 years ago to invest in a SaaS business. There's loads of people in this room who know what SaaS is. I didn't even know what it was. But I met the two founders of the business. I fell in love with them, fell in love with the product. It's an accessibility product in the inclusion and diversity space. And about 2 months before COVID, we went into the hospitality sector. So our mission is to open the world to everyone. So our target clients were hotels. And 2 months later, COVID hit. An absolute disaster. But thankfully, in the last 6 months, we've pivoted into the office and facility space. And I've learned 2 things. 1, stop chasing the thing you set out to do if it's not right for you. And 2, offices have lots of money. Lots of money. So now we're actually talking to people who can afford us. So that's wonderful. I'm going to tell you 3 stories about trying to build a culture that we built. We set out to build a world-class culture. In the creative space, Pete's favorite phrase, measurement, it is actually easy to measure. We would do it through awards. You win clients, you grow their business, et cetera, but there's a kind of a binary thing. If you're as good as you say you are, you should be winning international awards. So I'll talk to you about that at the very end. When we sold the business, we were the most awarded creative agency in Irish advertising history. So, you know, it went well, but much more importantly, what I learned through my identity crisis was the destination actually really didn't matter. It's days like today and every other day when you're getting yeses and nos, it's the journey, it's the struggle to raise the money, it's the pitch for the new account. That's the stuff that's actually great. And when it goes from you, that's when you realize that it was what you missed all along. So, start of the journey. We were about 18 months in business. When we started the business, it was a very long time ago. It was very difficult to get big clients on board. So we dealt through advertising agencies. So our first 2 clients were advertising agencies, one of whom had Tia Maria as a client. So we did a very big sales promotion for Tia Maria. Now, we had to interact directly with the client, so they knew who we were. They didn't know anything about the name Rothco or anything like that. Cut to the end of the sales promotion in a very big nightclub in Dublin. I'm standing beside the client. Max was his name. And the thing is, look, it's wonderful and watching on. And he turns to me, he says, this is the most successful promotion we've ever run as a business. I'm like, that's amazing. Thanks, Max. Super. That's Thursday night. Cut to Monday morning. Fax machine. Do you all know what a fax machine is? I'm just checking. Fax comes in, and it's the brief for next year's promotion and the list of agencies that he wants to pitch for that promotion. And obviously we're included in that. I wasn't happy because Max had said to me on the Thursday night that this is the most successful thing that we've ever done. And then on the Monday morning, there we were, not a paid pitch, but a free pitch. So in the creative services industry, you pitch and all the investment, and it's reinvention every single time. You can't take it off the shelf. So you're spending your own money to pitch for the business again. So I turned to my two partners. I said, I won't tell you what I said, but we won't be doing that. So I did up a letter, sent it into the agency of which Max was the client. And I said, we will not be participating. Thank you for the invitation, but we wish you the best of luck. Goodbye. That was it. What I didn't know was my two partners had contacted the EA of the person who had sent the letter to and said, can you take the letter off his desk? We'll be pitching. That wasn't good. So, cut to the end, I said to the lads, I won't be taking part in the pitch, you guys do it. So they did, and the inevitable happened. We didn't get the pitch. So you've got to value yourself. You'll get people who run you ragged, through hoops, get you to do everything. And in that moment, my two partners realized that you've got to have the courage of your convictions, and you've got to back each other. And if something doesn't feel right to you, then don't do it. Don't do it. Listen to your heart. And we never did that again. We had a reputation as a kind of a grumpy bunch because we would be very selective about who we pitched for and who we didn't pitch for. Cut to about, I'm going to say, 80 people later in the journey. We were reasonably big. We had a lot of big clients. We were doing good revenue. Lovely big building. I'd normally be first in. Walking up the stairs, I see a sweet wrapper. And as is your inclination, you bend down to pick the sweet wrapper up, and I thought, no, I'm not going to pick the sweet wrapper up. And for the previous 2 months, I had felt that there was something wrong, just something a little bit not, the energy wasn't right in the building or the business. Something had changed. So I left it there. I thought to myself, I'll see who picks it up. And so the day went on until about 4 o'clock. And the test was done, and the sweet wrapper was still there. So I went out, picked the sweet wrapper up, and called a company meeting together. And in that company meeting, I opened it, not with the sweet wrapper that was in my pocket, and I said that within 2 years, we're going out of business. And I held it for about that long, because I would have a reputation for being a bit crazy. So I wanted them to know that this wasn't one of those moments, that I was deadly serious. And just for the record, I was deadly serious. Because what had happened in the business was we had gained a reputation. Lots of people that joined the business over the years. I'm a copywriter, I'm an art director, I'm an editor, I'm a producer, I'm a planner. They'd come into a business that had a reputation, and they had the swagger of that reputation without earning it. So for me, a great culture needs every person to see it as their responsibility. Because if they don't, it's not going to work. And it's everything. And so in that moment, we moved from forgetting that we weren't individuals to we are all a team. Like, until we moved to a building that was just too big, it had those industrial bins, I put the bins out every single week. I didn't even think about that, right? And I would imagine everybody in this room is the same. You just don't think about that stuff. But as the business grew, you got to remind people that that's an entirely normal thing to see. If you don't see it, you're building two cultures. And it's got to be an everyday occurrence, and people have got to accept that they're responsible for it, otherwise it doesn't work. I mentioned we were grumpy. I guess we were probably jumping back about 25 people at this stage. We'd really wanted to win the RTE creative account because you can get to do some really great creative work. And we won the account, and about 2 months in, we realized that our values were misaligned. So I had got the partners together and said, look, this isn't working, we need to do something. So I went over to see the Director General of RTE at the time and explained that things weren't working, at which point they sat forward and said, well, this is the way the relationship is, and this is how things are going to go, because we've had and named a series of very good agencies that they'd had. And I said, well, it's not going to work for us, so I'm serving official notice. We're resigning the account. That was a moment. That was a moment, because that was very public. The following, that was during the week. On the Sunday, it was back in that time, the back pages would have the marketing coverage. So it was the minnow sacks the gorilla. And like it's RTE, and we were in advertising. So it was a very risky move, but I felt great because the account was worth about 20 cents. So it didn't really matter, but it meant a lot to the team. Remember this brand? Yeah? This is a different brand. So we had the same journey. And this brand was worth about 5 million in fee to us over the term. So it was a big, big piece of business. And we got to do some really nice creative work on it. So we liked it for lots of different reasons. But as we kept on working with the brand, we realized that the team that were working on it were literally being run over on a daily basis. They looked terrible. There was tears almost on a weekly basis. And I ignored it. I ignored it for probably 2 months of this. When it started to get like this, I ignored it for about 2 months until I realized a very important thing from my point of view, that I was a liar. Because I'd stood like this, talking in company meetings about the fact that we want to be the best in the world, the fact that we back each other, the fact that we look after each other, that's what we're all about. And yet, I was staring at a team who were being run over on a daily basis. But it was €5 million. So I went and saw Meteor, and we resigned the account. €5 million. The best thing we ever did. When I say the groundswell of loyalty and belief was off the charts. Off the charts. It was a great ending. The CEO called me in. What went wrong? I explained. It was just, something that we couldn't work with. Asked us to hang around for another 2 months. I said, I can't. We're physically going to hurt our own team. We can't do that. We'll resign it and we'll leave it. He replaced the entire marketing team in there. Somebody who we had already worked with took over. So we got that plus the whole Air account about 4 months later. So it was a happy ever after, but I didn't know it at the time. So my thing here is, it's about other people believing you and believing in you. And it's every single day. You can't just pick and choose when you're going to be authentic. And sometimes it's very expensive to be authentic. But my message today is that it does work. If people believe you and believe in you, they'll literally go over the ditch for you. And you them. And they'll know that. Whereas they will also see, even if they don't express it, they will also see when you had a moment and you didn't do what you said you would do. So, cut to the end. Speech therapist in the room. Where's the speech therapist? Excellent. I hope this might help you, what I'm about to show you here. I hope. We wanted to build a culture of excellence, but we wanted to be an inclusive culture. So the thing I'm about to show you here swept the boards in what we would see as the Oscars, Cannes Grand Prix, Lions, The One Show, D&AD. In the creative space, these are all the things that you want to win. And this swept the board. But that's not the good story. The good story is that over 70% of the people in the building can claim to have made this. I'm particularly happy with that because so many people were involved. It started with a very innocuous conversation in the canteen where somebody was telling somebody else that their sister was a speech therapist and they were working with children and they were just really disillusioned with how the mechanics of working with a kid, and the kids were reeling against it, et cetera, that they found it so boring. That conversation resulted in them we had a pro bono fund, going to the pro bono fund and seeing, can we get some money to be able to invest in an idea, come up with something to help kids with speech and language difficulties, and it ended up in this.
1 in 12 young people have some form of speech impediment. The best way of overcoming one is through repetition, practicing problem sounds over and over and over. The problem is, repetition is boring. The Bogo Barrel Road, the Bogo Barrel Road have trouble with pronouncing those words. The Bogo Barrel Road around the railroad. It's boring. Except except when it happens in music. That's where playlists come in. We created an algorithm to analyze popular music for patterns of repetition that are helpful for speech therapy. Songs where particular sounds occur in particular patterns that are helpful for overcoming an impediment. Apple Music then conducted the single largest data analysis of song lyrics ever, scanning millions of tracks to isolate the songs with therapeutic value. These songs were curated by Warner Music and weaved into playlists. Playlists where singing along can help your speech. A playlist of songs for ta or ka, da, cha, fa, and more. The playlists live on Apple Music, the place where people like me go when we want to sing along. Playlists, a collaboration by Warner Music and Apple Music.